You're listening to Book Banter with Diane Burkhart, your book talk podcast. Join me every Wednesday for real conversations with authors and publishing insiders, where you get to connect with the humans behind the books you love. Let's get on with our show today. Well, hello, my happy people. Today is February 11th, 2026, and we are keeping the Lovefest momentum going. And in case you haven't noticed, our Lovefest isn't just focused on traditional romantic love. Love isn't always soft. It can be complicated and messy. Sometimes we have to sacrifice for the people we love and fight for something bigger than ourselves, which is where we are with today's author, who fits in perfectly with that description. He blends historical science fiction, time travel, and big philosophical questions about faith, ethics, and moral responsibility. With his impressive background, he is able to bring together engineering, theology, and storytelling in a way that feels both grounded and at the same time incredibly expansive. His latest novel takes readers to medieval Spain, where a mysterious stone capable of healing anyone becomes the center of a hidden war over time itself. It's speculative fiction rooted in human cost and consequences as much as it is in actual world history blended with his incredible imagination. We talk about all of this, and we even go off on a little nerdy side quest discussion about quantum theory. It really did my heart good. It's thoughtful and engaging and was surprisingly fun. So I think that's enough of me blathering on about him and actually bring out the interview. So please welcome to Book Banter with Diane Burkhart, science fiction author and YouTuber, John Newton. If you've listened to any of my interviews, you know that the way that I always like to start these out is just to have my guests tell everyone who you are and what you do.
My name is John Newton. I'm a science fiction author, computer programmer, father of 7, and sometimes I even like to write a few things.
You know, I have to tell you, it's like I was reading your bio and I needed to take a nap after reading this stuff because it says that you are an electrical engineer, you are a robotics programmer, a landlord, a part-time farmer, a fairly prolific podcaster, a devoted husband, a father of 7. And my question is, when do you actually have time to write?
Oh, that is a really good question because it just sometimes doesn't happen, and I really have to force it, have to scrape out some time. And it almost sounds like I'm bragging with that. I'm not. It's just, these are just things that I have to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so the writing is it's a way to break out and focus on something that's not essential. I don't have to do it. It's a fun thing that's off to the side. And that's where the creative juices just start flowing is with that. And so that's the nice part about it.
Do you ever wonder if because your time is so precious that it makes you write more efficiently?
Yes. You know, it's weird. It's like when I play chess, and I don't play very often, but when I play chess, it's just like I'm just playing around, and all of a sudden, oh man, I'm in a bad spot.
Mm-hmm.
And then I break out and I start playing well. It's not until I really get boxed in that I focus and start playing well. And I think that sometimes translates to other things in life where I'm not a procrastinator really, but sometimes when things are at the last minute, it just piles in. I've got to get this done. Focus and do it. I've got another novel coming out that I'm writing. I'm supposed to be doing some final editing, but I've been spending a lot of time on the world building for it. So for science fiction, fantasy, and horror, there's a lot of world building. That's a big part of the writing for it. Yeah. And so you can go overboard sometimes in building this world. Like Tolkien had, I mean, he had all these languages built up. He had all these histories and everything that was there. But that gave him this wellspring to write from because he could just tap in. Once he started writing, he could just pull from all these different directions. So that's what I've been doing with this other novel. I've been spending a lot of time world building, and it looks like it's offering a lot of opportunity for later books on this. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Now, whenever you have all of these notes for behind the scenes stuff, do you ever think about creating just like an encyclopedia to go along with your fiction work?
Oh yeah. That's what I've been working on. So there, without getting into too much detail, because this is science fiction, I have a technical manual. And this series that I'm working on is built on an alternate history. Earth is actually the third history that was created by reverse time travel. And so you have Avar, which is the first history, then you have Epi, and now you have Earth. And so I needed to understand what all this future tech was. What was the limits? What can people do? What don't they do? What were some weird things that they did with it? Like, there are aspects of technology that when it came out, we didn't realize how people were going to use it originally, like the smartphone. It's being used in ways that Steve Jobs didn't originally imagine.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have this future technology, like a healing stone, that's able to heal anything, and you throw it in the past, like in the Middle Ages, what kind of impact would that have on people back then? How would they respond to it?
Have you done any research into like quantum physics to kind of figure out your time travel? I mean, is this something that you're just creating yourself, or is it actually based on any science?
That's a good question. So is a name for this type of science fiction, and that's hard science fiction. Hard science fiction is something that's closely or absolutely tied to real physics. There's no hand waving, there's no kind of fantasy there. You're not just using a bunch of technical jargon, but you actually try to tie it to something. So this technology that I have in here is 500 years into the future. It's going to be hard to pin down. Who knows what kind of tech is going to be, or even science, 50 years from now. But if you take what we have right now and extrapolate it, you might have something that's hard science fiction for the future. For example, the going back in time. There is a guy named Kip Thorne, who was a professor at Caltech. This is years ago. He came out with a book called Time Warps and Black Holes. And there was a possible way to go back in time with that. Now, it breaks down. I don't think you really can do it. But the method that's used in this book is based on his theories.
I have to admit that I've always been like a really big fan of the block theory of the universe, or was it also called eternalism, based on Einstein's theory of relativity, that all things, past, present, future, are happening now. It's just that they're happening in different dimensions. And so to time travel, you would just have to slip dimensions.
You know what? It's funny that you mentioned that. I was listening to a YouTube video, and somebody from Germany was talking about this. So the future already exists, right? Is that the idea?
Mm-hmm.
And you're just slipping like from one room to the next.
Exactly.
Okay. How do you slip from one room to the next?
I have no idea.
Finding that door, I guess, is the question, right? Yes, that's interesting.
I
Yeah.
find a lot of these theories just really fascinating.
Well, the other part to that, too, is what happens to free will. If the future is already predetermined, if the future already exists, it's not just will happen, it's there, it has happened, then do we have any free will involved at all?
Well, I would think that just because it has happened doesn't mean that it is predetermined. It is still your choices that got you there. It's just it's happening now while you're doing what you're doing now. I don't know if that makes sense.
I think it's the definition of now, right?
Yeah.
So I think there's I believe that. I think there is some truth to that. It's sort of like if you're watching a movie and the characters in that movie do make choices. Of course, they're just actors, right? But the characters in that movie make choices. Let's say it's not a movie, but you have a home video that you're watching. This is from 5 years ago. You're watching, I don't know, your kids play or something.
Mm-hmm.
And your kids are making choices there. But, oh, yeah, I remember that. This is the one where they fall down the stairs or whatever, and that you're laughing about it. They still had choice in that, even though it already did happen in the video.
I was trying to think that there's another theory too. Gosh, which one? I can't remember what it's called though. That all possible outcomes also exist at the same time. So depending on what you choose to do in this minute, it's like if I cough now, then something different will happen in the future than if I don't cough. But in different dimensions, every possible outcome is happening.
Mm-hmm. That's a multi-universe. If I understand it correctly, that's a multi-universe theory. That with every possibility, there's another one that gets spin off. So do I turn left or I turn right? There's a universe for either. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, many worlds interpretation.
There you go. There you go.
Can you tell I'm kind of like a science nerd?
I'm talking to the right person. This is fantastic. If you want to, I could tell you about the Kip Thorne theory.
Yeah.
I have a hard time with the multi-worlds theory.
Mm-hmm.
The hard time with it is what happens to conservation of energy with that? Because you're constantly spawning universes, and it's not just every decision that you make, it's also any kind of quantum fluctuation there is, countless per second in the entire universe. So you have an infinite number or near infinite number of universes created every millisecond.
Mm-hmm.
That's just maybe it's just my small mind not being able to wrap itself around that, to be able to think that that's a possibility, but to look at that and say, I don't know, I'm so stuck on conservation of energy, I don't see how that'd be a possibility. So the Kip Thorne theory, it goes like this. It does use relativity and it does use wormholes. So if you have the idea of a wormhole is that you have a singularity or a black hole, and in that black hole, nothing can escape. You can go into it, and it gets sucked in. It's a gravity well beyond everything. And so if you take two of these and somehow they connect between them, and not talking about hyperspace, they actually connect in space itself. Then this is one of the big keys. Can you live falling through that wormhole without being stretched into spaghetti because of the gravity? Okay, so you've got some kind of exotic matter that produces anti-gravity that counteracts that, so you can slip through this wormhole into the other side. And so the big question is, where's the other end of that wormhole? Mm-hmm. Maybe safe, right? And the size of the wormhole is, let's say, 6 feet across, or for anybody else outside the U.S., 2 meters across.
Yeah.
And the other side is also like that, but that's in Hong Kong. Now, I take that one in Hong Kong, and I can just walk through and be in my living room on this side, and then walk through my living room and be in Hong Kong on the other side. It'd be a really cool way to travel.
Yeah.
Now, I take that other wormhole, that other mouth, and I put it into a spaceship, and I blast off towards, I don't know, Alpha Centauri, and I approach the speed of light. Now we got relativistic effects taking place. So time slows down for that other wormhole as we approach the speed of light. Mm-hmm. They take the 4-year journey. They come back. When they come back, the Hong Kong end of the wormhole is out of time sync with this end. Okay. So now it's, let's say, 1 day behind in time than from here. So when I walk through the wormhole, I go yesterday into Hong Kong, and then I come back out. We're not talking about a time zone different. We're talking about actually back in time.
Yeah.
So that's a fixed spot. So that type of theory is what's used in this novel series.
That is really interesting.
Now, Stephen Hawking looked at this and said, He said you would have radiation feedback, almost like you have a microphone in an auditorium and you get a feedback loop. He said the same thing would happen with this, but radiation from one end would hit the other, and then it would cause it to be unstable and it would collapse. So thank you, Stephen Hawking, for messing up my whole world. We was having fun.
That's the one thing. It's like, I love reading his books, but at the same time, it's like, can we just enjoy some of these ideas? It's like, they don't have to actually work, but I like the concepts.
Yeah. So if you were able to stay awake through that explanation, hats off to you. You did a good job.
So now, what is it that actually sparked your interest in being a science fiction writer?
Probably like most people in my generation, growing up with Star Trek and Star Wars and all that kind of stuff. Scotty being able to get the ship going no matter what all the odds are. And so that's what kind of a lot of other people were inspired to go into engineering. That was also a partial inspiration for that. Just a fascination with the whole thing.
Now, I know whenever you were young, you had to move around a lot. You actually graduated high school in Cyprus, didn't you?
The island of Cyprus, yes.
So how did that shape your idea of world building whenever you had so much exposure to so many different things?
Boy, that's a really good question. I think probably one of the biggest impacts was learning to adjust quickly in a different social environment. And a lot of times you're not really accepted because, and it's no fault of anybody else's. I mean, the other people that you come in contact with, this is the first year you're here a year, you're here another year, you're in a different place, different school for 2 years, maybe half a semester for the next one. There's a lot of history that the kids will have with each other, and they'll welcome the new kid and stuff like that, but you're not really maybe a part of the crowd as much. So you stand out. And I wouldn't say that I fell back into fantasy, but there was some ways that I could work through things by reading and immersing myself in other worlds, and then creating another world. Because there's a lot of the reading that I had done, I wasn't really satisfied. This is close, but this isn't quite it. So that's why I started creating this other world that these things happen in.
I know that you take your craft very seriously and you work hard on building engaging worlds with complex elements, including the time travel and psychology components. How do you balance the science with the humanity in the story?
Oh, that's the fun part. Well, I'm doing all of this world building and all this stuff that's off to the side. I'm doing a history of Avar and how that affects people. And when they discover new things, how do those new things affect society? But the real fun is when it gets down on the personal level. So I talked before about this future technology that was lost in the past. And it happens a lot in this series. Because what happens when time travelers lose their tools? It affects the past, but more importantly, affects the people that interact with it. So this kid, his great-great-great-great-grandfather, discovers the stone that heals anything. And how that affects their family, tears their family apart. It's a family secret. They try to work with it. One generation is a benefactor with it, tries to heal as many people as they can without getting caught. The next generation just tries to, hey, this is a money-making machine. We need to just use it for the rich. That type of thing. And how it affects people is probably the more interesting part than just the technology behind it.
You've done all of this research in the physics area. Did you do any special background research in technology for this? Or did you already just know that because of your job?
No. Gosh, I wish I worked with time travel. That'd be cool. No, the technical part is a basis for it. It's I like understanding how things work. And so that helps me dig into it. What happens a lot with tech is one thing leads to another. You have a scientific breakthrough, and that breakthrough leads to how we use it. And that's the technology that's there. And how it affects us is, I guess you say, the psychology or the sociology that's there. So with the research has been more in understanding the history, because this is almost an historical novel, because the events that happen in these novels are real events in history. I try to make it close to history as possible. So the people that Francisco, the main character, run into in the first book are historical figures. And Ramada, who is in book 3 in Africa, the things that she goes through are real historical events. She's a princess of the emperor of Mali, the Mansa of Mali in Africa. And so these were historical events. Now, it's a little bit harder to research that because there's not as much material that's available for that than there is for medieval Spain. But one of the fun things about writing is that there are constraints that force you to write within certain boundaries. And those constraints provide a framework. And the constraints would be either the scientific part or the historical part. So, well, you can't do that. They didn't go down to that place. You have to make sure that it happened in this location instead, and so forth.
Do you ever find yourself going down a wormhole whenever you're doing historical research?
Was that a play on words?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can. Just like doing too much research on the scientific part, you can do too much research on the historical part. So this is, I guess, for any author, this would be a real tug of war, because you don't know what really to research. You don't know in your story what the people are going to do, what they're going to come across. So you get started, maybe do a rough draft or something. If you're either a pantser or a plotter, you do your work there, and then you figure, oh, I got to find out what happened here. So you pause, and then you do some more research on the side.
So what are you, a pantser or a plotter?
I'm a planster.
Ah, okay.
So I do a lot of upfront. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do X, Y, Z, right? And I'm doing Save the Cat model and all this.
Yeah.
And then I plug it in, and the freaking characters in the story decide they're going to do their own thing.
Yep.
So, and I just go with it.
I've been there.
Yep.
The first book that I wrote, I tried so hard to write a very detailed outline. And like the first chapter in, and the characters in my head are just like, that's so cute. We're not doing that. And my story just went in a whole different direction.
Yeah. I think it was, have you read Stephen King's book on writing?
No, I haven't. I keep thinking I've got to sit down and do that.
Yeah. I think it's good. You know, there's a plethora of writing books out there. You can spend the rest of your life just reading all these.
Yeah.
But one of the things that he had done, and he's, if I remember correctly, because it's been a while since I've read it, he's a pantser. But what he'll do is he'll set up some interesting characters in a difficult situation, and he lets them loose.
I kind of like that.
Yeah. So it's like a super premise that he has. Not just a 1 or 2 line premise. He's got this, okay, this is the situation. Here are the people. Let's see what happens with them.
You know, and I don't know how it works for you, but it's like whenever I sit down to write, it's like a movie just starts playing in my head and I'm just sitting there transcribing what I see.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So for me, I hear dialogue first.
I don't. I get the images first.
Okay. I don't know. I am a visual learner, so it's interesting that it happens that way and not, an auditory learner. Do you know what kind of learner you are?
Oh, definitely visual.
Okay. So, yeah, and those pictures. So do you do a lot of heavy setting writing? Is that important for you?
Yes.
I belong to a writers group, and they'll get after me and say, it's too much setting. I say, all right, I'll take it out.
It's like, no, but that's where it all starts. And then I go from there.
Yeah.
I always have like the whole world set in my head. The way that it looks, the way that it smells, the way that the wind feels when it blows. And then I worry about everything else.
Yeah. Does it just kind of everything else falls in from that point?
Yeah. Once the world is there, everything just drops in on its own.
Do your characters ever talk to you? I mean, not like, you're there just talking to them in the background, but I mean, they just, conversations or situations start in your mind. You think, oh, what would happen then? Does that ever happen to you?
Oh, yeah. And as a matter of fact, it's like I finished the first historical fiction series that I wanted to write, but I have it planned in my head that I want to take some of those characters and do a second series later. The first one was like Into the West, and the second one will be Surviving the West. And those characters in the back of my head going, okay, we know you want to write all these other things, but when do we get to come back out? I mean, it's constant. It's like, okay, this is what the next story should be. We're ready. Start writing our story again. It's like, no, I've got 2 other books that I have to write before that one.
Oh, boy.
It's really hard to get them to be quiet and sit down and wait their turn.
Now, do you do series then?
Yeah, I like doing series.
Okay.
Because usually I think of like these great epic stories that I want to stretch out over several books and just really flesh everything out completely and not do individual stories that are just, beginning, end, stop.
Now, do you find that this series sometimes just like characters in a book will take off in directions that you hadn't anticipated? Do you find that's the same for series?
Oh, yeah. The way that my first series ended, I never had that planned, but it came out perfectly. It like brought the whole story full circle, gave a clean, complete ending to all of the storylines. And it was just amazing the way that it ended up. And I had no clue it was going to go there.
That's nice.
Yeah.
That's good. With the series that I'm working on now, you have Francisco is the 1 of 6, and then there's a 2 of 6 and a 3 of 6. Ramada is the 2 of 6. And it just keeps going forward in time. So you start off in the 13th century, Ramada's in the 14th, and it just keeps on going closer and closer to present day.
And we should say that the name of this series is the Shadows of Time series.
Yes, thank you. So when each one of those characters that is going through, they're numbered because they're supposed to do something later. You have people that the time travelers are looking for. There's a predicted 1 of 6. He has his characteristics, and a 2 of 6. She has these characteristics, and they go out to try to find him. So the problem is that I needed to do something with Francisco, the main character, before book 2.
Mm-hmm.
So that ends up being book 2. And now book 3 is about the 206. I thought, oh man, I wanted each one sequential with the people. You can't do that. So hopefully that won't be a problem when there's many books besides just the 6 here.
Well, I have to tell you, I did start reading your first book, The Healing Stone. And I always know that a book is going to be something that I'm interested in. If I can pick it up and after reading the first 2 pages, I'm like, okay, I have to know what happens next. If it can hook me within the first 2 pages, I know that's something I'm going to read all the way to the end. If I have to slog through the first chapter to actually get into the story and force myself to become interested, it's going to be a toss up whether or not I want to finish that book. And your book definitely had me. First 2 pages, I'm like, okay, when does this interview start? Because I want to see how much of this I can read. And I was sitting here reading until I was reading when you came into the interview because it just has me hooked.
Good. That's good to hear. Yeah. That's a compliment, especially from another author, because you know what it's like. You may have interest in the story, but to be able to convey that to someone else with pacing or anticipation or whatever to the reader, that's not necessarily an easy thing to do.
Well, in your character descriptions, I mean, the gnarly hands reaching over the counter and him asking, do you want to continue? Because she's crying and she didn't even realize she was crying. There's just so much interaction and the way that they were talking about hugging and that connection with the other person, their family just made them finally break their resolve and they lost control of their emotions. I mean, there's just so much of this that just really draws you in.
Thank you. That's good. That's good. Hopefully the other books in the series will continue with that.
So now why don't you go ahead and tell our audience the basis of the Healing Stone?
Okay. Well, I'll start off with, I do book signings and I go to different events.
Mm-hmm.
You usually start off with someone's walking by and asking what they like to read. And if they say it's this particular genre, I say, what would you do with a stone that could heal anything?
Mm-hmm.
And I get all sorts of responses with that. The most common one is heal as many people as I could.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to do it without getting caught, because if you get caught, or at least they find out what it is, the device that you're using, in this case, a stone, someone's going to want to investigate, maybe take it, maybe try to figure out how this thing works. So you've got to keep it secret.
Mm-hmm.
And then how that affects the people that have the stone. So what happened with Francisco is he inherits this from his great-great-grandfather. And he ends up on the streets of Toledo because, as an orphan, with his drunk uncle, who beats him all the time and then heals him with the stone. So Francisco takes it, ends up on the streets. And so what happens to him is his dying wish with his father was do no harm lest it breaks the charm, and heal as many people as you can. So Francisco, a big kid, ends up on the streets but can't defend himself because he believes that if he does, this stone's going to break. Now, I don't want to say too much more because you're reading it. It's going to be, and if you continue reading it, I don't want it to be a spoiler for you, but it ends up that maybe his father wasn't quite right. And that the original owners of the stone come looking for him, and they have other plans. And that's where the science fiction part comes in. That it's not just this miraculous stone or some kind of holy relic. It is something else entirely, and that's something from the future. So the rest is to be revealed.
Now, I know the Healing Stone explores ideas of trauma and memory and healing through science fiction means, but what message do you hope people will take away from your story?
With this book, there's a couple of moral stories that would be learned. And one of them is Francisco thinks that he views the world as in black and white. There's either the people that should be healed and the people that shouldn't be healed. And he softens, possibly later on, and it has to do with forgiveness overall. But with these moral issues in the story, it's not preachy. It's not something that's overhead. These are lessons that are naturally learned by the characters in them. And when I go out to write the book, that's where the pantsing part comes in. I didn't necessarily go with that in mind. Mm-hmm. It's just that's what happened, or possibly could happen to Francisco.
Do you have a specific set of number of books that you want to have in this series, or do you think that You're going to leave that a little bit open to see what the characters do for you.
I do have a specific set, but just like when I write an outline, that could change. There basically is, and this is a lot, and I'm kicking myself in the butt. There are 12 that are lined up. That might be a big commitment to have somebody make for a newer author. But I do find that once you transfer to audiobook, and when people start listening audiobook, they want more and more and more because they found something they like and they want to continue with it. So my target audience would be audiobook listeners to go from that direction.
Well, even with book series, though, there was at least 2 authors that I'm probably like 25, 26 books into their series.
Wow.
Because the story's just compelling and they're able to keep it going and make it interesting. And I automatically buy everything that comes out from them just because I know their characters and I love them.
Yeah, I could see that. The idea with this is that you have the overall series is that you have these individuals who are going to end this time war. There's ongoing time war that's been around for 10,000 years. And there you have this prediction that is made by this high-tech quantum computer that says, here is the one of six. And in the beginning of the book, it has the poem. It looks like a poem, but this is a prediction made by this computer. It's called the Oxalate. And it has this for everybody that the Satiri recruit. The Satiri are people from the future that they're the good group because there's the Kiari that they're bad group. But they use these predictions to recruit new members. And there are 6 special members that are on that. Francisco is the first. And these 6 special members are to end it. And it almost has a feel of the Avengers from Marvel Avengers, where you start off with Iron Man, then you have Thor, and then you have the others, and you have individual movies that are focused on these main superheroes. And then it brings it all together with Endgame. And that's kind of the idea behind it all.
You are talking to a Marvel girl, so that makes total sense to me. There's like so many different emotional aspects to these storylines. What was the hardest scene or chapter for you to write?
In this series, I would say probably one of the opening scenes with Francisco when he loses his mother.
Yeah, that was hard to read. Because it's one of those things where you could almost feel that anguish.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't want it to make it too heavy or too hard. It is supposed to be realistic. It's supposed to, you're there with the character. You're seeing through the character's eyes, so you're going to feel that. But I drew from some personal experience on that. I lost my mom when I was 16 because of cancer, and
that's tough.
Thank you. I believe there is some of that in there.
How important is it for you to ground your speculative fiction in like emotional truth? I mean, sharing something like your experience through your characters. I mean, is that something that you even think about when you're writing this, or does it just come naturally to you?
I want it to be realistic, but my own experiences are limited from the things that I've gone through. So when it comes to an experience that somebody else might have, I'd have to talk to other people to find out what it was like going through. But even then, you don't like word empathy. I think we misuse because empathy is showing compassion or connection with somebody else because you've gone through that experience. Sympathy is showing compassion or care for someone else because you can think of yourself in that experience or trying to go through that. So there's an extra step with empathy. It's not possible to have that unless you go through someone else's experience. And everybody's experience is unique. But trying to pull on that as much as possible to put into your own characters, I think sometimes it can be. Do you find it difficult for you in certain circumstances?
Sometimes, yeah, because I am a very logical person. I'm not a very emotional person. So trying to write a sincerely emotional scene, sometimes I'm like, okay, would they cry then? I usually have to go and talk to one of my other friends. It's like, I would not be upset in this moment, would you? And she was like, yeah, I'd be crying. I'm like, okay, thank you. That helps.
Yeah, you know what? Your character might even be reaching a little stoic and then dealing with it, a loss or whatever, later differently.
Hmm.
Maybe lashing out anger. You have the whole grief process to go through. But people do deal with things a little bit differently. And that could be the fodder for some more story,
Hmm.
right? People may accuse that character, well, you don't really care, or things like that, and say, well, you don't look like you care.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, there's such a wide range that you can do, but there are just certainly some characters that I know how I want them to be, but I don't have firsthand experience about how they would react like that. So I find one of my friends that I know usually has those kinds of reactions.
right.
So now seems like a good time to do our 5 quick questions that never turn out to be quick, but I hold out eternal hope that it will happen one day. Are you ready?
Yes.
With 7 kids, I would think that there's probably at least one storybook that you have grown extremely tired of reading. What would that be?
Oh, boy. You know what? I don't know if I would fall into your regular category for this, because with the kids telling them bedtime stories or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
I would make them up.
Oh, that's good. That does come in
And
handy having a writer as a father.
yeah.
Is there like a specific trope or genre or whatever that they
Oh,
ask
yeah,
you
yeah,
for a
yeah, yeah,
lot that
yeah.
you're kind of tired of doing?
Yeah. We do the Three Little Pigs, and this is when they were younger. Three Little Pigs, we would have all sorts of variations on that. I mean, probably one of the most, and it just go by reaction. This is almost like vaudeville, right? So
Yeah.
you got your audience right there, and they're reacting, so you're responding to your audience. Probably one of the more fun ones was with Three Little Pigs. At the end, the Three Little Pigs had automated machine guns there on their house, and the wolf would be coming up in a tank, and fun things like that. We had a frog that was crossing the road near a swamp in this area, and it was at night, and he looked up, and he was just trying to get across the road at night, and looked up and look at those pretty lights, and went from there. And that became he became a superhero because he and his friend found this super suit they were flying around with. So that became a favorite.
That's really great. I love that answer. So now question 2. If you had to eat only one type of food for the rest of your life, like Mexican, Greek, Italian, what would it be?
Oh my gosh. Even your favorite you would get tired of after a while. Oh, I do like Chinese, but
Yeah.
I know this Americanized version of actual Chinese food. I don't know. I probably yeah, Chinese food. Go with that.
See, and I decided it would have to be Chilean because my husband is from Chile and his cooking I could not live without. So,
Oh, that's good.
so question 3. If there was a sci fi world that you had to move into and live out the rest of your life in, what one would it be?
Can it also be fantasy or just sci-fi?
Yeah, fantasy too.
I would say it would either be Rivendell and Lord of the Rings without the ring coming crashing everything down,
Yeah.
and or Star Trek Next Generation on something similar to a Galaxy class starship.
Yeah. I kind of like the latest, was it Discovery? That is like a retelling of Before Kirk.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I love that one.
Hmm.
Number 4. What is a totally random skill or talent that you have that has nothing to do with writing, but that you're very proud of?
Oh, wow.
Here,
We're gonna have to
I can
edit the
give you an
pause out on this
example.
one. Huh?
I can whistle really loudly because when I was a kid, we lived on a ranch and our house was at one end and our barn was at the other end of 10 acres. And so you had to learn to whistle really loudly to get somebody's attention. If you were at the barn to get somebody's attention at the house, or at the house to get somebody's attention at the barn. So
Oh, wow.
that's the one thing I can do. I can whistle extremely loudly.
Um, that is a really good skill to have, and I wish with my kids that we did. My
Comes
wife
in
and I
handy at
have
sport
this.
events.
Yeah, I bet. We have a certain whistle that we would use. It's a unique call that if
Hmm.
we're in a big store or something like that, we could hear each other and know where each other was, but
Nice.
not loud, not like you.
Yeah.
Maybe swimming. It's not necessarily a skill, but it has nothing to do with writing. But I enjoy swimming, and that was the only sport that I was good at when I was younger, was swimming. So,
Oh, swimming is totally a skill. I did not learn how to swim until I was about 14. My sister became a lifeguard and she taught me how to swim.
oh, that's nice.
But before then, I could not. And it's like, I only know how to swim because my sister taught me. So now, question 5. Last year, we asked everybody the same question 5 and put a list in our year-end book buying guide of everybody's answers. And we're going to do that again this year. So, in your opinion, what is the best book to movie adaptation that you have ever seen?
Ooh, Lord of the Rings. He kept it fairly close, and he cut out things that I would have cut out, except for one scene at the end of the trilogy, and that's when the hobbits get back to when they get back to the Shire. There is a really good tie-up that was missed that I wished was there.
I wonder if they have you like gotten the disc collection and see if there's an extra scene in there?
I do have that, and it's not.
Ah, bummer. I always like whenever they do those little extra things in there. That would have been perfect.
Yeah, there were a lot of extras that they had in there, but they didn't take the time to do that. I'm not sure what the thought was, because Saruman. Are you familiar with the series?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so the whole thing when they get back to the Shire and you got Sharky there and Sharky dies. I think it's a really good contrast showing how the hobbits have grown, how they've changed. You've grown, Hobbit, and how they changed there at the end versus who used to be such a powerful wizard. Saruman is relegated to just this thug leading this group of vagabonds there at the end of the story, showing how they're just sacking the Shire, and the hobbits take care of him. I thought it was really well done. But they don't. Maybe it was just it was an extremely long series anyway on film.
Yeah.
It would be adding extra to it, and maybe the pacing was just off. But I still like that part.
Yeah, that would have added something really good to it. So now, can you tell our listeners where they can find you and your books?
The books are on Amazon, and the short stories are wide. They should be available on all major distributors. I'm also on YouTube on Newton SciFi, and that's without the hyphen, NEWTON SCIFI. And I also have a website, newtonscifi.com. So those 3 places primarily is where you can find me.
And of course, all of your information with live links to the things that you just mentioned will be in the description of today's podcast, so people can just click and go and find you in all of these places. Now, what is coming up next for you? What is next on your to-do list?
The second book in the series, which will be coming out in May, and I've had to pull back on the YouTube channel to be able to focus on that. With the schedule, there's been no way to be able to do both the writing and YouTube at the same time. So I've had to pull back from that, write the second book. This is what happens to a main character. I'm not going to say who, because it might be a spoiler for the first book, but what happens to him in there's some events that wrap up that have a huge impact on Ramada, the 206, who is in Africa. So that Ramada is partially done. It's already, I have a rough draft for that. And the next, the 3 of 6, there's also beginnings of that. So all these books are in process. And the next book is definitely coming out in May. And that's what I'm working on right now.
Yeah, I didn't realize exactly how much time just doing a podcast once a week would take. Whenever I started doing all of this, I do a lot less writing now doing this and the magazine.
Yeah. And it takes your creative energies for it too.
Yeah, it does. And I was really kind of surprised how much it does. But this is my opportunity to get to sit around and talk to people about the craft and their work. And, I love doing that. So I don't want to give it up.
That's good.
It's like, and this conversation has been absolutely wonderful. You are fun.
Thank
And
you.
you're
So are
actually
you.
somebody who understands my nerd stuff. So,
Yes, yes. It's like I don't have to explain faster than light travel, you know.
this has been so fantastic. I cannot thank you enough.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. And yeah, give me a call some other time. We could just sit down and chat. This is great. So
I
it
would love
works.
that. I'd love to hear more about the next books that are coming out after I finish reading this one.
Yeah.
So there you have it, folks. My incredible interview with YouTuber and sci-fi author John Newton. This interview was a sincere treat for me. I rarely get to nerd out on quantum theory with anyone, so I truly loved this conversation, and I hope you enjoyed it just as much. Now, be sure to go and check out all of his links in the description of today's podcast, where you will not only find all of his social media, but you will find links to go buy his books. Now, next week, we continue on with Lovefest with something completely different, but just as powerful. I'll be sharing my interview with writer Jackie Gorlick, where I talked with her about her upcoming memoir, Map of a Heart, a memoir of love, loss, and finding the way home. Jackie's work has appeared in the New York Times, Salon, the Washington Post, and many other publications. Her memoir explores medical trauma, motherhood, estrangement, and the complicated meaning of family. It's deeply personal, honest, and beautifully written. Trust me when I tell you, you do not want to miss out on this conversation. And be sure to go to burkhartbooks.com/podcast and check out all of the authors that we have coming up through the rest of February and March as we complete this season's Lovefest opener. We have got authors from every genre that you can think of that would have a story based in love. But for now, you know what time it is, folks. It's time for you all to go forth and be very happy that we have a lot of great authors this year for Lovefest. Thank you for joining us today. Be sure to subscribe to Book Banter with Diane Burkhart on your favorite podcast streaming service. Because if you love books like we do, you do not want to miss a single episode of this podcast.